My name is Michael. I'm 31 years old and live in a small apartment in the city. I work as an urban planner. It's not a glamorous job, but I love it, designing streets and spaces that actually make people's lives a little better. 10 months earlier, I had carried the last box down 3 flights of stairs from Sarah's apartment, loaded it into my car, and driven away without once looking back in the rearview mirror. We had spent 2 years trying to convince ourselves we were fine until we couldn't lie anymore. 3 weeks before that night, Sarah called me. Her voice was overly cheerful. "Hey, Michael, I'm getting engaged. I'd really like it if you came to the party. We're both adults now. I want us to be okay." Every logical part of me wanted to say no, but some stubborn part wanted to prove I had truly moved on. So I said yes. The engagement party was exactly what you'd expect from Sarah's family. Their lakeside mansion, 40 minutes outside the city, was lit up with glowing white tents, strings of lights, and waiters carrying trays of champagne. A string quartet played softly on the stone terrace overlooking the dark water. Guests wore clothes that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Sarah looked radiant standing next to Derek, her fiancé. Sharp suit, expensive watch, the kind of guy who worked in private equity. I gave them both a quick hug and handshake, offered my congratulations, and meant every word. After that, I slipped away to the rose garden on the side of the house. It was quieter there, with low hedges, stone paths, and soft ground lights. I stood in a darker corner, close enough to see the party, but far enough that no one would notice me unless they were looking. My plan was simple. Stay long enough to be polite, then leave quietly. While I was checking my phone, it rang. It was Emma, my younger sister. That morning, she had been waiting for the email that would decide if she got into the veterinary program she had dreamed about for 4 years. "I got in!" Her voice was shaking with excitement. A real smile spread across my face, the first genuine one all night. "Emma, that's incredible. I'm so damn proud of you." We were laughing about old memories when I heard a soft, lonely voice nearby. "I wish someone cared about me like that." I turned. Through the rose bushes, about 20 feet away, a woman stood alone near a small table holding a glass of red wine. She was staring at the party like she was watching someone else's life unfold. Her dark hair was neatly pulled back, her dress elegant and expensive, but her posture carried a deep, quiet sadness. It was Victoria, Sarah's mother. I quickly ended the call with Emma and walked around the bushes. When I cleared my throat, she startled. "Michael, I thought you had already left." "I was thinking about it," I said, nodding toward the space beside her. "Mind if I stand here for a minute?" She gave a small nod. We stood side by side in silence for a moment, the music and laughter floating over from the terrace. The words I had heard were still buzzing in my mind. I wish someone cared about me like that. I looked at her, and she seemed to realize what I was thinking. "You didn't hear that?" she asked. Her voice was low. It was a small breather of relief, but still unsettled. I nodded, slowly. "I did," I said. "I heard what you said, about wishing someone cared about you like that." Her face went pale. She set her glass down and looked at her hands. "I didn't think anyone was close enough to hear," she whispered. "You don't have to be embarrassed," I said. "It's your daughter's engagement party, and you're standing here feeling invisible. That's not nothing." She let out a short, bitter laugh. "Everything looks perfect, doesn't it? The party, the house, my marriage, my life. It all looks exactly the way it's supposed to, but none of it feels right anymore." She turned and really looked at me for the first time. Her light brown eyes had tiny gold flecks. "How did you know?" she asked. "Because I heard real love in your voice when you were talking about my sister. I don't think you get to feel that kind of care very often." Victoria took a shaky breath and began to open up. She told me how she had once been an interior architect in Portland. She loved creating spaces that made people feel something. Then she married Richard. Everyone said it was the perfect match: money, status, security. So she gave up her career. 33 years later, she had become nothing more than Richard's wife and Sarah's mother. She no longer recognized herself. "Do you ever think about starting over?" She smiled sadly. "I'm 62, Michael. People would say I've lost my mind if I tried to change everything now. Maybe you're not falling apart, I said. Maybe you're finally waking up. That night, before she returned to the party, she reached out and touched my arm. Her hand was warm. "Thank you for listening," she said softly. And for the first time, she said my name like it meant something. Most people see what they expect to see. You saw something else. 2 days later, I received a text from an unknown number. "This is Victoria. I got your number from Sarah's phone. Would you like to meet for coffee somewhere quiet?" We met on Tuesday morning at a small cafe on the other side of town. When she walked in wearing jeans and a simple gray sweater, she looked lighter, freer, like she had left part of her old self at home. That first coffee stretched into 3 hours. We talked about design, life, regrets, and second chances. By the time we left, I already knew this wasn't just a random meeting. Something important had begun. We started seeing each other more often, always in quiet places away from her world. Coffee shops by the river, hidden park benches, small diners. What began as casual conversations slowly turned into the brightest part of my week. I encouraged her to return to design. She hesitated at first, saying she was too old, but soon she reached out to the local Heritage Preservation Society and began volunteering. Her excitement returned. She started dressing differently, smiling more, and texting me photos of old buildings with questions about light and space. One afternoon, while helping her prepare a presentation for a preservation conference, the tension between us finally broke. She asked why I was spending so much time with her. "Because none of them are you," I said. She warned me it was dangerous. I knew it was, but I couldn't stay away. At the conference, she shone. She spoke with passion and confidence. Richard showed up briefly, barely paid attention, and left early. Later, Victoria broke down in tears. "He doesn't see me," she whispered. "He never really has." That night, in a quiet corner of the old building, I told her I was falling in love with her. She kissed me, softly at first, then deeper, and admitted she was falling for me too. For weeks, we lived in two worlds. When we were together, everything felt right. We walked in parks, talked for hours, and held hands where no one could see us. When we were apart, guilt and fear weighed heavily on both of us. Then Sarah began to suspect something. She confronted me one day, saying her mother was acting different, happier, younger, always smiling at her phone. She thought Victoria was having an affair. The pressure grew. Victoria was terrified of hurting Sarah and facing the judgment of their social circle. One day, she suggested we pause things while she figured out how to talk to Richard. I got angry. The hiding, the waiting, it was tearing me apart. I walked away, hurt and frustrated. For nearly a month, there was silence. I threw myself into work, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. Then, I got a call about a community center project on the east side. Victoria had recommended me. Even in the silence, she had been thinking of me. During the first presentation, she walked in unexpectedly. After the meeting, we spoke privately in the stairwell. She told me she had asked Richard for a separation. He wasn't surprised. He had been seeing someone else for years. But Sarah had seen us together and confronted her mother. Victoria was devastated. A few nights later, at 2 a.m., Victoria showed up at my apartment door, eyes red from crying. She asked if she could stay. As soon as the door closed, she broke down in my arms. We spent the night on the couch, talking through the pain. She was scared of losing her daughter, scared of the judgment, scared of everything changing. I held her and promised I wasn't going anywhere. We continued working on the community center together. It became more than just a project. It was something we were building with love and purpose. While the outside world gossiped and some friends turned away, we grew closer. Sarah stayed distant for a long time. She refused to speak to her mother. But slowly, she began to see the truth. Victoria hadn't destroyed a perfect life. She had simply stopped pretending. Months later, on opening day of the community center, the building was full of life. Laughing children, proud parents, and neighbors who finally had a safe, beautiful space. That evening, Sarah came to see it. She told us both how beautiful the center was. She admitted she was still hurt, but she could see how alive her mother looked now. She wasn't ready to be close yet, but she promised she wouldn't stand in the way of her mother's happiness. 6 months later, Victoria's divorce was finalized. We moved into a small townhouse together. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. We filled it with books, plants, sketches, and memories. On the 1-year anniversary of that night in the Rose Garden, I took Victoria back to the community center after hours. I had decorated the main room with soft lights and photos from our journey together. I got down on one knee. Victoria, I fell in love with the woman who was lost at a perfect party. I love who you were, who you are, and who you're still becoming. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes as she said yes. We got married 4 months later in the same community center, surrounded by children's artwork on the walls. It was small, warm, and real. Emma stood beside me, and Sarah hugged her mother tightly before the ceremony. Standing there, holding Victoria's hands as we said our vows, I realized something powerful. Sometimes the most beautiful lives are built from the pieces of what we were brave enough to break. And it all started with one quiet sentence in a rose garden. I wish someone cared about me like that. When she touched my arm and said my name that night, neither of us knew it would change everything. But it did.